Okay, hello everybody.
Hello.
So the last of the day, hopefully. So I have here this device, and I chose this name. What can I do for the Slackline community? Because one day I asked me, why am I doing this? It's not that I want to be a Slackliner. I don't want to move in your profession. Whoever is here, I don't want to produce. I don't want to whatever. I think they have seduced me. I don't know who it was, but I had also many years ago I have a transportable destruction machine, and I was on a fair, on an Alpine fair, and one guy came up with something. I think it's whatever. I don't know who it was. Was it
Harry?
Harry. But was he alone? I think there were two people approaching me, and they were Slackliners, and there it started, and so I chose this name. What can I do for this community? I will make a short introduction where I come from, and then what my laboratory can do for you. I come from the Alpine scene. My parents took me to the mountains and to traveling and everything, so I grew up with that. And I found this picture, so rigging for me was, I was used to rig myself and my brother. I learned a lot about knots from the scratch, what works and what does not work. Now then I have 4 kids, but consider that this picture is about 30 years old, so they're grown up, and from this I have 2 grandchildren now, and these are the girls who decided a couple of years ago that they need to change the color of my hair. This is my PPE when I started to climb. And imagine the change. This was in the early 1970s. And it was only the rope and steel carabiners. There was a new aluminum carabiner on the market. And that was it. Belay system was non-existent. Since there are some climbers, maybe it's interesting for you, that's why I choose this picture. The belay, Louis Trenker, around the shoulder, just didn't work. So you hardly could hold a second person, but not the first, the leader's fall. And between this and the next picture is about 5 years. Within these 5 years, and this was say the late 70s, we had harness, full body harness as a chest and sit harness. We had the Monta hitch, which worked perfectly in belaying, is still out there. We had figure 8 designers and so on. Within 5 years, the industry dramatically changed.
How is it to follow this?
But
How is it to follow this chest harness?
it's okay. When you fall, you don't feel anything. I never did a lead fall, because when you did a lead fall in this time, you most probably died. So don't fall, was because so many people died in these times. So many people. You can't imagine how many people died because it just didn't work. The falling is perfect. There were cases where they could hold a fall somehow, and they fell 40 meters in here, but you could not hang very long. Try it out, and the test, the practice was always, are you able to tie a Prusik before you couldn't move your hands anymore? But life was easy. No European standard. No standard at all. I mean, that's no risk analysis. The word didn't exist. So life was just cool and easy, very free. But many people died. I chose this picture because here are some Czech and sandstone climbers, right?
Is it Höllenhund?
Höllenhund died from Hasse, yeah. Long ago. I choose to earn my money as mountain guide and ski instructor. And considering that this picture was in the late 70s, life was completely different at this time. When Reinhold Messner showed up at this time with a yellow pants, it was, everybody was watching him because everything was gray at this time. Gray and Knickerbocker. I was somehow a little bit different. And just imagine showing up like this in the Swiss Alps and being surrounded by Swiss mountain guides, which are, I would say mountain guides are more traditional people. Swiss mountain guides are very traditional. They said, you don't look like a mountain guide. Wir schauen aber nicht der Bergführer aus. Okay. After a couple of years, I decided to move into another branch, and now I built ropes courses, I operate ropes courses, and 10 years ago I changed the site. Now I'm inspecting ropes courses. That makes most of my turnover is done by inspection of ropes courses worldwide. That's just a cool job. Can't recommend this job. I chose this picture. I thought many people ask me, do you slackline? And some slow little memories came back. No, I'm not doing slacklining, but I did slacklining. And you will judge, is this slacklining or not? In the 1980s, I was in Yosemite Valley, Camp 4. Who's been there? Who knows the history of Camp 4? So you know the history. And there was this chain. The chain between two trees where I saw people. Maybe they smoked it a little bit. And I tried it, and then I got some hints from people. They're very nice, and then I thought that's a cool thing. And back in Europe, I bought a chain, and now I realize that I had it always for a couple of years, always in my car, and I built it on different places. And I could manage to find a picture, and this is a picture. It is in Gorge du Verdon. Maybe you have heard about this. But it's between the car and the rail. So this was my, and I had climbing courses at this time, and I remember at our base hut, I put the chain and I did it with my group. So I even
an instructor.
all things. So, but then I forgot the whole thing until now. Very funny. So who knows this guy?
Very important.
I mean the left guy. Pete Schubert. Who has heard the name Pete Schubert? He's a legend in alpinism because he was the first. He wasn't the first who tested material, alpine material, carabiners and so on, but he was the first who did it in a professional way. He published, he established the alpine research. He was the head of the German DAV Sicherheitsforschung, so the equivalent to you guys. And he inspired me from the beginning. In the late 1960s, he published the first time test of carabiners. And I remember that broken carabiners, and they had a list, and some of them had big skull and bones because they broke at very low rates. And I thought that's cool. And I wanted to do that. Oh, hey, it's a bad place for you here. Let's try to.
Can take it out.
So I think it's 35 years ago when I thought, hey, a destruction machine would be so cool. And I had a quote from a company, and no, Yeah, and then I decided to do something. I wanted to prevent harnesses and ropes being thrown away brand new only because there is 10 years. After 10 years, you have to throw it away. And I decided to do the research on it. And I activated my study. I started 1976. And I finished my study 2016, so that are 18 semesters. So all of you who think they studied long, try to beat me. After the topic of my master thesis was discard criteria for polyamide PPE. And I went through all the discard criteria, especially the time, but also things like falls, heavy falls, and so on, and proved and tested it scientifically, are they valid or not. And just for your information, time is not a discard criterion. So, and now my target is until 2023, I want all suppliers to have this number strike out of their manuals. Sorry for you guys, but you really don't, I mean the manufacturer, but you don't really want to make your money in destroying our planet. I think time is right. So this is my target. And now I switch to a video. 3 minutes. Is this generation able to watch a 3 minute video?
Let's try. Let's try.
So,
Is the music?
a little bit music because I stole a part from the Slackline. So, this is from constructing the part. I did it by myself, and bought from bought old steel things, built a frame, bought some hydraulic things, and it works. And then the slackliners came in, and I'm pretty sure that it's in total at least 2 weeks you guys spent at my home. And this is stolen from the slackliners. You know that guy? This is a machine which I constructed for top rope applications to simulate top rope, which we used for abrasion test. And that were these things meant to be destroyed, very weak but consistent. So I don't know how many we destroyed, 30?
35.
35. Destroying, discussing, comparing. Okay, here you see when some higher loads come on it. Here are about 11.5 tons on this wooden bar. Like this. And this is how a wooden block looks like after 20 tons load on it. So if your trees look like this. This is a cyclic test of a carabiner with a very high load. And after 150 cycles or something, yeah, it failed due to microcrack. Yeah, it exists, but only here. This thing I want to explain because in one part of my life I'm expert on court, because when something happens, the judge or whoever calls me in and asks me how did it happen. And there was a case when 3 people fell off in a ropes course, and it was not possible to find a reason. I was there twice, another colleague of me was there. We could not find the reason for this case. And fortunately, my colleague did a severe mistake. He tried out something because we thought the reason is here, and then he descended, and somebody took a video, and here he fell off, boom, broke his spine. He's fine again, but we had this video, and then we found out that the reason is completely different than we thought, and I found out that it is possible to pull a 12 millimeters compressed steel cable. This is, when you know these cables, they are really hard. You cannot bend them, you cannot destroy them. It's possible to pull it with body weight through this gap from a slider. And only 1% of all cases create this. So when you try to reproduce it, it's really difficult. So this is something that I like to identify, to make research, to find out things, to solve issues, to solve problems.
I see that the curve is also.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. Because the screw has no effect on the breaking load of the carabiner, only to prevent opening. But thank you for this. So I tried first. So, and you can see. So this is this. Maybe you like it with this one. Yeah. So when you look at your trees, then you can compare it how much load you have on your trees. So this was this.
And now we've been practically loaded at 20 kilograms.
Yes.
Yeah, 20 kilonewton. Just below the real breaking load. So here you can see how it's pulled through. So then I decided to build a tall drop test, and this is the delivery of 6-meter steel bars. I like working manually, so I did it all by myself. And lifted it up, which was a challenge. And the whole construction is 7 meters high, which is quite high, you know, something about heights. And this is when 100 kilos, 2 meters fall off, and this is when a dynamo breaks. So,
Is it caught by springs at the bottom? What stops it from?
10 layers of gymnastic mattresses. Very simple. One of these long mattresses, there are cushions where they do
Tumbling.
Bodenturnen.
Tumbling.
Tumbling. And I got it, and I cut it in pieces, and they such a layer, wink, and it works perfectly well. So, oops. And now we continue with the presentation. So, I got inspired by him, and this was my first test machine, my second, which I did for my thesis. My first was done manually, and it were very thin bars. And first, when you pull very strong, and when it breaks, you fly into the storage thing where all the carabiners hang and the ice axe. And second, at one time, whoop, the bar collapsed. And then I knew how long it must be, how strong it must be, and then I built my first hydraulic machine. And then I decided to build this bigger machine. Do you know these guys? They showed up in my office and conquered my laboratory with my coffee machine. I think that was another meeting or another guys. I can see it from here. So this is my machine. I have 2 cylinders. The old one above, it's 1 liter and about 5 tons. And below is 60 centimeters with 20 tons. And this is how it looks like. It's in a small room, 4 meters 50 long and 3 meters 50 wide. So it just fits in there. So my laboratory, what can I do? I can do slope pull tests called static tests. It's only the name for something that is low dynamic. I said what, and I can also adapt the speed and different loads. I can switch the load differently. And I can do cyclic tests where I can switch on various parameters, how high the peak, how low or to 0 the rate. I can let it wait for 10 seconds, for 1 second in between, and can go for a coffee in between. I can do now drop tests, and I can do special tests and examinations, what it is, and this is what I like most. And very new, I got now a device where I can measure the elongation up to the breaking point. I would be very interested to hear from the manufacturers their secrets, how they measure this, because I couldn't find a good thing, but now I have it.
Optical system?
Yeah, camera 2 points, and yeah, I destroyed 2 speakers. And it works already on another place, and now I transfer it to my place. So my advantage to competitors like TÜV or other testing institutes is I'm not a notified body. You're not allowed to certify PP, for example. You can say that it's a big disadvantage, but it's the big advantage is that my costs are very low. I don't have this annual fee for being notified. I'm in a no-notified testing area, which also the TÜV covers. The TÜV also is in this business, and this is a fast-growing business. But the TÜV makes it on the same machines, and they have to make the machines busy. So that's a difference, that's an advantage. The other advantage I talked outside, I'm an inspection body. That means I have to follow very strict procedures in quality control. That's why I have to call in another person who double checks my procedure. This cannot be somebody of you. And I'm code expert with a lot of possible legal issues, like I cannot spread out secrets, otherwise I'm really fucked. I'm independent, and I want to stay independent, so don't try to give me small gifts, or for my thesis, I bought all the material I needed. I didn't want to have any invitations from companies. Yeah, and by now, or not yet, I do not need to make my living with it. So this is a big advantage. I want to establish this branch because at one day I cannot climb on ropes courses anymore. But with a wheelchair, I can go into my laboratory. It's on the ground floor. So that's I want to have it as a start-up. But one day I want to make it profitable, but not yet. So that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I couldn't be here. So, I think, thank you. Questions?